Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book Capacity Model, no other than Mr. Steve Perry.
Hey Daniel, how are you?
I'm fabulous, fabulous like you, mister. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Steve Perry. I live in Minnesota with my amazing wife Tabitha and two little girls. Um, we have lived here for 6 years, and I've lived all over. I lived in Texas, I lived in Alaska, I lived in California, I lived all over, and but I am excited to come to you from Minnesota today. I wrote this book, The Capacity Model, back during COVID, actually, and the premise of the book is how to build your best life. And so I'm excited to visit with you today.
Indeed, Mr. Steve Perry. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So tell us the capacity model, what is all about?
Yeah. So the premise of the book, Daniel, is that everybody experiences stress in life. I imagine you've probably experienced stress before.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe multiple times today. I know I certainly have. And,
Multiple, yes.
and so what I say in the book is that stress is actually a gift. And it is a gift because it's life telling you that it's time to grow. You need to grow yourself. And so we all have a certain capacity. And I define capacity as the ability to handle all of the things that life throws at us up until the point that we begin to experience stress. And so our capacity is actually built on three different pillars. And so if you want to think of it like you've got this roof, that's your capacity ceiling, and you've got one, two, three pillars holding it up. And the more you've done to develop each of those pillars, the taller it is. And so the more capacity that you have. And so what those three pillars are your education or your learning, it's your habits, so the things that you do on a regular basis, and then your relationship. So, how well you've networked and built and connected with people. And so the stronger, the more time you've developed those, the better quality your habits, your relationships, and your education are, the taller that ceiling is on your capacity, the more you can handle life throwing at you before you begin to experience stress. And so, what I talk about in the book, Daniel, is that whenever you experience stress, you've got two choices. And the first choice is that you can just give up and go through the cycle of breakdown. There's actually three stages to breakdown. The first stage is that you begin to be you're disappointed, right? So can you share something with me maybe that has stressed you out recently, or maybe that someone shared with you that has stressed you out recently?
Well, actually, I was stressed when I did not meet my quota.
You didn't
You
make your
know?
quota, right?
Yes.
So you got to sell a certain amount to make your quota, right?
Yes.
Right. This is super common. I used to lead a team of salespeople, and there was a lot of stress around that, right? So the first stage of the breakdown cycle, I didn't make my quota, and I'm disappointed, right? So I'm like, doggone it, I can't believe I didn't make my quota. Man, like, you know, it's probably just a fluke, but I'm just really pissed off right now. And if you sit in that for too long, then you start to become disillusioned. You start to think, you know what? The market is too hard. Like nobody's buying anymore, right? There's too much competition. Our price is too high, and I'm actually never going to be able to hit my quota. And that's step two, which is so step one is disappointment. Step two is when you become disillusioned and you just think everything's going to go wrong. Step three is greener pastures, and you've probably seen this a lot, right? I didn't hit my quota. I'm never going to hit my quota. You know what? I'm just going to quit this job and I'm going to go find another job that's a lot easier. And so they leave that job and they go try to find another job. But the problem is they're going to go get another job, and they haven't done anything to increase their education, their habits, or their relationships. So inevitably, they're going to bring themselves to that new job. They're going to have another sales quota, and they're going to miss it again. And the same thing, it's fun to get a new job, and the first couple months are maybe easy, and you're just learning like the same things again. But if you don't do anything to increase your capacity, the same things that stressed you out before, if you just choose to break down and give up, they're going to stress you out again. So instead of having a breakdown, what I talk about in the book is that we need to have a breakthrough. We need to raise our capacity ceiling. So we look at not hitting our quota, and we're like, you know what? I need to improve my education, or I need to improve my habits, or I need to improve my relationships, or all three of them, right? Maybe I need to learn more about social media marketing, or how to connect with people on social media better. Maybe I need to get in the habit of making more phone calls or sending more emails. Or maybe I need to develop relationships with centers of influence that can refer me to new clients, so that next month or next quarter, I hit my quota. And in turn, those pillars increase and your capacity increases, and the same things that caused you stress before do not stress you out. That's the model in a nutshell.
Very well said, Mr. Steve. Beautifully articulated. How do you define capacity in the context of your model?
Yeah. So, per the beginning of the book, I talk about it. But capacity is your ability to handle everything that life throws at you, up until the point that you begin to experience stress. So you've probably had times in life where you look at your calendar in the morning and you're like, I got a lot of things on my calendar, my kids and my family, and I'm exercising, I'm doing all these things, but you're like, I got this, I can do it. No problem. Like, I've done this before, right? You're not stressed out. Well, that's because you've raised your capacity to be able to handle doing all of those things. But the flip side, other times you've probably been like, I don't know how I'm going to get all of this done. Like, you know what? I just want to go take a nap. I know I've certainly felt that before. And, that means that you've reached your capacity limit, and it's time to raise that ceiling.
Was there a personal experience that motivate you to create this model?
Yeah, a lot, positive and negative for sure. Um, in the book, I tell the story about how I had been given the privilege to lead a new office of financial advisors, and so I'd gone in there. I was the new leader now. I was the new guy to town, right? I moved from Alaska to Texas, and so I go in there. I'm the outsider, but I'm the boss. I'm the managing partner. And as I went in there, fortunately, I had experienced in the past having a very poor leader, and the things that he did were basically the book on how not to do it. And so I went in and basically did the opposite of that. And so with that, we were very collaborative. I created great relationships. We installed great habits for the organization. And we taught them a lot of things, right? So we built education, habits, relationships, and we were very successful. In fact, we won more trophies. Our office, out of 116 offices all across the company, we won more trophies than any office in the history of the company. And so we're on cloud nine. We were crushing it, right? And so the year ends end of December. We go early into January, and I had the bright idea of bringing in a consultant to help start training and coaching my leadership team. And he was going to, put us on a very regimented, like weekly, monthly, quarterly plan. And I didn't tell anybody about it. I just brought the guy to our annual planning meeting. And I'm like, hey, 10 o'clock, this guy's coming in. So he comes in and he presents, and I just look around the room and I instantly knew I made a mistake. Every one of my leaders is sitting there like this. I could just tell they're all pissed. And I looked at my senior partner, my right-hand guy there, and he's staring at the other end of the table, like just staring at me like this, like, Steve, what did you do? And I violated everything that had gotten us to that point right before. I hadn't collaborated with him. And in that moment, I felt that stress. I knew, oh my goodness, I screwed up big here. And we just had a phenomenal year, but this is all going to go sideways if I don't figure out how to fix this right now. And so that's a story I tell at the beginning of the book, of where I recognized that I had reached my capacity and I needed to quickly increase it. Otherwise, I was going to have some big stress on my hands.
Mr. Steve, how do mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual capacities interact with your framework?
Yeah. So I would, great question, by the way. So there's a lot of different areas of life, right? So like you said, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. We experience stress in each of those areas, right? So all let's talk about physical. Um, when we get sick, when we get an injury, right? Then that's stress, right? We've reached our capacity. Um, let's see. I'll share a story. So I play a lot of basketball, and 3-4 times a week I'll play for an hour or two, pick up games. And a number of years ago, I was playing basketball, and I during the game I remember I was like making a sharp move, and I locked my knee back, and I just felt it go click, and I'm like, oh, that can't be good, and my knee hurt. And so I'm like, well, I need to go get this looked at. So here's physical stress, right? I can't play basketball anymore. My knee is painful. And so it hurt for a few days. I went and got an x-ray. I talked to one doctor, and he was like, nothing's showing up on the x-ray. And so I'm doing the things. I'm trying to increase my capacity for this physical health. I'm resting. I'm not exercising anymore. I'm building relationships with doctors, trying to get their expertise. I'm trying to educate myself on it, and ultimately it just never got better. And so finally, we live in Minnesota, where the Mayo Clinic, one of the most famous medical systems in the world, is. And I had a new relationship. A friend of mine, his brother was one of the orthopedic surgeons at the Mayo Clinic. And so that new relationship, I said, hey, here's what's going on. And he said, you need to talk to my brother. And so I talked to his brother, and they did a special kind of, MRI on my knee, and they were able to find what was wrong with it. They scheduled the surgery. It was really a minimal thing. It just had chipped a little bit of cartilage off that was floating around in my knee, and, nothing was torn. But they went in and sucked that out. And my goodness, I was ready to go like a week later. And so that's an example of physical stress, physical capacity building, where I had to develop some relationships, I had to get some education, and then I had to put some habits in place to raise my capacity to physically be able to do what I wanted to do again.
Very well said, Master. Very well said. And what is the first step someone should take if they want to start building their best life using your model?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So what I typically, I like to start with stress, right? So what is causing, like, let's fix something right now. Like, what is causing you stress in your life right now? And then let's look at that, and let's figure out what is some education that you could get, or some learning that you could get. What is some habits, or one habit that you could put in place? And who is one person, one relationship that you could develop that would help you to overcome that stress. So a lot of times in my past, I work with salespeople, I work with business owners, and a lot of them, they're not making the income that they need, or that they want to accomplish their goals. And so we just walk them through that really simple exercise. All right, you're not having the income that you want, so let's walk backwards. Right? Do you need to learn something new to be able to generate the income, or do you know what you need to do? All right, you know what you need to do. Then let's not focus on education. So it's either we don't have the habits in place, so we need to put some new habits in place, or we need to grow and develop some relationships, or maybe both of those things. So that's the first step, is to figure out, like, what is something that's stressing you out, and then which one of those pillars should we focus on to increase your capacity, and that'll be the first step towards building your best life.
Mr. Steve, who do you think will benefit most from reading the capacity model?
Yeah, I wrote it from the lens of a entrepreneurially minded person, a growth minded person, perhaps even a sales individual, somebody who has goals that they're trying to get to, and they're growth minded. So I find that most people that enjoy the book have some type of entrepreneurial venture that they're in or some type of sales capacity that they're in. Although I've had, you know, people who are just stay-at-home moms find it very beneficial. Retired people find it very beneficial. So that's primarily where it is. But I tell you, the concepts are universal, and the stories in it too are as well.
Are there a daily practices or habits you recommend to help people grow with their capacity?
Yeah. So one of the things I do talk about in the book is the idea of developing a life plan, and so that was taken from another book called Living Forward. I did not write. Michael Hyatt wrote that book, but the concept in Living Forward is to really develop out a life plan, and you do a couple exercises in that. It's quite comprehensive. It takes 10 to 15 hours to do all of this. But the first thing you do is you chart out what are all the important things in your life. So the first thing, where do you want to spend your time or what's most important? So for me, my priorities are my relationship with God, my physical health, or personal development, I guess, overall. So relationship with God, personal development, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, and then my business. And so in each of those areas, what I do is I chart out what does it look like now? What does my ideal future look like? And then what are the steps I need to take to get there? And you do that for each of those areas. You could have 5, you could have 10 areas of life. And then a practice that I did was that I took that and I would read that whole thing every morning for 30 days. And that really aligns you around what's important to you in life and where you're spending and allocating your time. And once you do that for 30 days, then you can do it weekly and then monthly after a quarter of that. So I find that that's super helpful in really trying to identify your purpose and what is important and prioritizing in life.
So, Mr. Steve, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season, People Fifth Season, with Chef Alessandro, one of the specialty chef in one of five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letters, senders all over the world. So please do listen, Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Steve, are there any future books, workbooks, or programs you plan to release to expand on the capacity model?
Probably not on the capacity model, no. But I did write another book called The Sponsored Entrepreneur, which is a really niche book for how to get into the financial advisory space. The next book I'm working on is, the working title is The Ultimate Talent Guide, how to get the talent you need for your organization. And so I own a recruiting company. We've got about 30 people on our team, and we recruit all over the United States. And so we've learned a lot of things in that, and I've got a lot to share. So that'll be the next book that I release.
Mr. Steve Perry, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support the capacity model? Mr. Steve, where they can buy your book?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon. Or on Audible. So audiobook, Amazon, Kindle, paperback, hardcover. It's all on Amazon.
Yes, people, I support Mr. Steve Perry because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Steve, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.